Hey, this is Austin Weber with Weber Bracketology, where every day is Selection Sunday. Happy Tuesday, happy Valentine's Day, and we got a new bracket update after the weekend and after Monday. It was a pretty chaotic weekend, lots of upsets going on. Monday had a few as well, so let's really get into this. So we're going to start look at the one line. The only change there is that Alabama beating Auburn and Purdue losing Northwestern. Alabama moves to the number one overall spot. Other than that, Houston and Kansas are still there. You could really make the case for Kansas being over Houston with the toughest strength of schedule and 12 quad one wins, which is, I think, about three. I think it's three more than any other team. I know Purdue has nine. I don't know if anyone. There might be someone else up there as well, but Kansas, Houston. I think the whole one line has separated themselves from the rest of the field at this point, and that's going to be because Texas and Arizona, who went into the weekend, Arizona, Texas 5-6 on my S curve, they both dropped games to teams that aren't going to be in the tournament. Arizona's was especially bad against Stanford, and then Texas did lose to Texas Tech, which isn't as bad, which is why I still have Texas as the number five overall team. But there's a clear dividing line between the ones and twos. I do have Texas and Baylor at the top of the two line, then Arizona, and UCLA actually moved up to that line with Tennessee's loss to Missouri. And we get down to the three line. Tennessee's actually even below Virginia for me. I don't really see Virginia getting much higher unless teams start losing, because the ACC is just fair. The ACC is not strong this year. So Virginia and Tennessee safely at the three line for right now. And then these next seven teams, which are Xavier and Kansas State on the three line, the whole four line, and then Indiana at the top of the five line. Those seven teams, they are the hardest part for me to order on this bracket. They're all very similar-ish in resume. I have Xavier at the top of that, even though they have the lowest net of those teams, just given the strength of their wins that they have. So they're at the three line with Kansas State, who they have a really strong resume as well, but number 301 ranked non-conference strength of schedule, which really hurts, especially since they did lose to Butler out of conference. The Nevada win was good, but they're sitting there at the three. Four lines, in order, I believe I have Iowa State, UConn, Gonzaga, Marquette, but really those can go any order. And then Indiana is my top five seed. I'm rounding out the fives. That hasn't really changed at St. Mary's, Miami, and TCU. On the sixth line, hasn't changed all that much. We still have San Diego State, Illinois, and Rutgers. Creighton did move up, though, after beating UConn. They kind of bumped Iowa down to the seven line. New to the seven line, though, is some hot teams right now. Michigan State has a very good resume. Especially with their strength of schedule and their quad one wins. They're solidly at the seven line. But Northwestern and Missouri, they both took big jumps for me. Northwestern was a 10, and I feel like I had them low at that point because they have a very strong resume. They have six quad one wins at this point and now beating Purdue. So they're moving up. In Missouri, they were a 9, have them at a 7 now after winning at Tennessee. That's one of the better wins of the year. At the 8 line, NC State's moved up there. Nevada's firmly there. Maryland's there. Duke dropped. They only have two quad one wins. They just don't have the wins at this point. As strong as I think they are as a team, I think the 8 line is really where they deserve to be right now. At the 9 line, Oklahoma State, they are moving up. Especially with being in the Big 12, they just have a chance to keep moving up if they keep on winning the way that they are. Florida Atlantic's there. Providence, they lost, so they dropped down there. Auburn, they just don't have the strongest resume, so they're sitting at 9. Even though losing to Alabama is really not bad, they just haven't been winning games. They have been winning games, but they haven't been winning good games. Another team like that's Arkansas. They've been winning. They did just lose to Mississippi State, but they just don't have a lot of wins there. So they're on the 10 line. Pittsburgh's an interesting resume. They have a low net. They have some good wins. They have some iffy losses. I think they're solidly in the tournament, but they're on the 10 line. Boise State, they're kind of in the same boat. They have some decent wins. They have a really good net, though, so that's what's keeping them safely in the field at a 10 seed. And then West Virginia is a team, they are stronger than a 10 seed. I think if they were in any other conference, they'd be higher up in the field, but they've just lost, to this point, they've lost 11 games. And while the number of losses doesn't always matter, it has to come into play at some point. I think they will safely be in this tournament, but once they reach I think 14 is the most losses for an at-large bid, and those teams have maybe 15, but 14 is what I can remember. Those teams have received bids up to like an 8 seed, so they can still earn a good seed. But right now, there's just not any tournament teams with that many losses, and while I might be a little lower than they should be, I just think that's where they have to be. And they're I don't remember if they're one of the last. I don't think they're one of the last four buys though. We'll see that in just one second. And then the last two buys though at the 11 line are Memphis, who's kind of just got an okay resume, but they haven't really lost games. And then Mississippi State, they with beating Arkansas, they jumped back into the tournament. They were in my next four out, but with all the losses on the bubble did not have a great last few days. Mississippi State has jumped safely as of right now into the field. Our last four in, USC really needed that win over the weekend, and they lost. They're still hanging on. Wisconsin, though their net's 80, which would be really low for a team to get an at-large bid. I just think if you compare their resume to these other teams on the bubble, Wisconsin has a lot of quad 1 and 2 wins. And if you look at metrics that don't take for account, like scoring, Wisconsin's doing pretty well. So I think Wisconsin deserves to be in the field. I think they deserve to be higher than there, but then their net ranking is just atrocious. Then New Mexico is one of the last few teams in. They're hanging on. And Kentucky was out until North Carolina lost to Miami last night. And North Carolina just has no quad 1 wins. So Kentucky gets the nod over them. And when it comes to the automatic bids, not a lot of changes. Drake destroyed Southern Illinois, so I kind of did bump them up above VCU on the S curve. But other than that, Yale is now in over Princeton, Milwaukee over Youngstown State, Howard over Maryland Eastern Shore, and then Merrimack is in over Fairleigh Dickinson in their conferences. But then let's take a look down here. These are our last four, next fours, and all that. So the last four buys are Pittsburgh, Memphis, Mississippi State, and the last four are USC, New Mexico, Wisconsin, and Kentucky. Then our first four out, Oregon is right there. If they had won over the weekend, I think they'd firmly be in right now. But like West Virginia, they have 11 losses. They do have some good wins, but unlike West Virginia, they're low in the net. They don't have a lot of those great wins. They do have a stronger strength of schedule. There's some bad losses in there, has them out. Texas A&M, some bad losses, has them out as well. North Carolina doesn't have bad losses, but they haven't really beaten anyone. Seton Hall is another team that I think can make a push to be in the tournament, just given their conference and what they've done so far. Clemson, I know a lot of people, I think, still have them in, but they have 2 quad 4 losses, a quad 3 loss. Their net's in the high 70s. I think they were 77 when I was putting this together. So I have them the next 4 out. They do have some good wins, but there's just some things that are really hurting their resume, and they're near the top of the ACC, and I think that kind of just shows how weak the ACC has been this year. As you see, Pittsburgh, they might be like tied at the top, and they're one of the last 4 buys. The only 2 safe ACC teams, I believe, are Virginia and Miami, and Duke. So the ACC and NC State, okay. So they have 4. Okay, I wasn't remembering right, but still, it's just been kind of a weak year for that a weak few years, especially with Duke not being very good this year. Then we're going to look at the last 3 in the next 4 out are Arizona State, Utah State, Wake Forest. They don't have very strong resumes. I don't really see those 3 teams making a push, really. The only teams I see making a push in that are out are Oregon, Texas A&M, North Carolina, Seton Hall, and Clemson. Other than that, it'll take a lot for those teams to get in. But obviously, we're going to have some teams crash in the bubble. So even those 5 teams aren't that safe. But yeah. So the next update will come on Saturday morning before the whole weekend after this week works out. But there might not be too many changes at this point, but we're getting close. We are 25 days away from Selection Sunday, and I think the top 3-4 lines are starting to really round out. There's only so many games left for these teams to play, and the 1 line seems really safe for now. Kansas obviously could start losing games. Houston could drop any American Conference games, especially since they have 2 games against Memphis coming up. But really, Alabama and Purdue are looking pretty safe up there for the moment. But thanks so much for watching. Check out Bracketology.com for anything else like the bracket. There's the S curve on there. And then subscribe here for more content throughout the rest of this college basketball season and further on. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching.